Just when you least expect it, your world can be turned upside down. Are you ready for anything that comes your way? Hey, Provident Preppers, I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Kylene, and this last Sunday, we had quite an event happen in our little town. There was a manhunt that went through several counties, and we just happened to be right in the middle of it. And it was kind of an interesting thing because there were lessons that we learned, things that I was very grateful for, and then we learned things that we needed to work on.
My first introduction to this little event, Kylene came in and said, "There's a tank in our front yard and a guy with a big gun." I'm like, what? And so I peeked out the window, and sure enough, it wasn't a tank. It was an armored personnel carrier with a guy up on top with his automatic weapon. And I turned to her and said, "I think we need to call 911. And she said, "That is 911. Okay. So it brought me down from this panic. I thought maybe it was some wacko, but it was our law enforcement doing their job, and there had been an officer killed in the line of duty, and they were searching for the perpetrator.
It was so sad. It was Sunday morning. It was a beautiful morning, and I was out feeding the rabbits. And all of a sudden I heard something, and I turned around, and there was this armored personnel carrier right outside my fence with another big pickup, and he had his automatic weapon, and he was just scoping everything. And so what do? I go walk up to him and I say, "Hey, can I help you?" That wasn't, I guess, the best response. However, he did say, "Hey, we're looking for a guy in this area. Have you seen anybody?" And then he said, "We need you to shelter in place. Go inside and don't come out." And so that's exactly what we did. There were helicopters going around. There was even an airplane that kept flying back and forth. And the streets of our little town were covered with different law enforcement agencies.
The whole works. They were loaded for bear and serious about their duty.
Now, one of the things, so let's talk about the lessons that we learned. And the first one was that two of these, I think they were SWAT officers, they were completely in fatigues with helmets and automatic weapons, and two of them came to my door. And I, of course, opened the door, and they said, "Ma'am, are you okay? Is everything all right here?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're fine." And then they asked if they could sweep the backyard. Well, just then my dogs came around the side and started barking at them. My dogs are behind a gate, but you can see through it. And the officer said, "Do your dogs bite?" And I'm like, "No, they just bark a lot." And he said, well, he had tried to climb over our back fence, and they started barking at him like crazy. And so I'm very, very grateful for dogs that bark. But one of the lessons that I learned was that my security door, I still don't have it. And so even this morning and yesterday, we are working really hard to get that, because I could not have done anything against these guys, right? These are way out of my league. But if the fugitive had come to my door, he could have very easily pushed his way in, and we could have been taken by surprise. However, if I had that security door in place, I'll know who's at my door. And then that will give me time to be able to go into the safe room and get my little persuader and be better prepared to take care of an event. Another thing that I am super grateful for is I have a hubby who locks the doors, and it makes me crazy because everything is locked in our house all the time.
Well, not in our house, but our house, our cars, I try and keep them locked because we've had some of these things, more minor things happen in the past.
No, he's just very protective of his family. And
That's
Sunday,
true.
I was very, very grateful for that. Sometimes it's very annoying, but the fugitive did steal one of our neighbor's trucks and used it for another leg of his journey. And so because our cars are locked, he didn't have access to them. So that was another thing that I was grateful for. And quite frankly, I'm super grateful for our law enforcement.
Absolutely.
Like, we would bend over backwards doing anything that we could do to help them. Their job is difficult, and we need to be prepared to be self-reliant and take care of ourselves so that we don't add to the problem. We want to be part of the solution and not part of the problem.
Yeah. And we are grateful for a good community. We're not a perfect community, but we're pulling together. Part of our message is always community. Community is so important, and being able to know your neighbors and work with your neighbors and communicate with your neighbors and watch out for our neighbors. These things are so important, and as I said, we're not perfect here, but we're working on it, and hopefully we're helping to make that, part of that difference is just getting everybody on the same page.
So we were texting, right? We're texting with our neighbors and with our family, because we've got a lot of family that lives in the area, and getting all kinds of updates. But sometimes those updates were not correct. You have to be careful what you're filtering through. But one of them had a police scanner, which was amazingly helpful because they had more up-to-date, accurate information that they could pass on to all of us. One of the other things that I think that I was really grateful for is that we were prepared. If we needed to lock down for a long time, we actually could. We missed church, and that was super sad that church was canceled. But other than that, we were prepared. And if we needed to lock down for a very long period of time, we would have been okay.
Yeah.
More of the lessons learned. I kind of talked about the security door. That was our number one lesson learned. Hopefully you'll get a video soon on what we've done about the security door. And then we've got the doorcade that Jonathan is installing on our bedroom door, because that is going to be our safe room. And actually we're going to do a couple different safe rooms in the house depending on where you are in the house. With that doorcade in place, that's my safe room. It gives me time. It buys me time to become prepared myself to defend myself or to call for help or whatever we need to do. There's a sense of security having that doorcade.
Another thing that we realized we need to work on a little bit more is communication. There was some good things going on, but in some cases there was a larger delay than there probably should have been in getting information out. The Nixle call that we were supposed to get didn't come as readily as it should have. And then just within our community, the ability to communicate, and like Mama mentioned, having these text groups set up and facilitating communication any way that we can.
We had only signed up for emergency communication within our county. And we realized, because this chase went over several different counties, that we not only should receive emergency communications for our county, but all of the surrounding counties also. And so we immediately fix that, because there are different software providers. Is it a software provider that is Nixle? Is that what Nixle is? Anyway, there's a different one for some of the surrounding counties. And so we signed up for those and we took care of all of that. We're working on better communication trees in our area. So I think we've kind of got that fixed. It was, in a way, it was super exciting and it was super unnerving, right? You never know where this person is, and he's armed and he's dangerous and he's already killed a police officer. And so it was just a very intense moment. But one of the things that I think is really important to think about is, at that moment, the time for preparing was past. And so whatever we had, whatever skills or resources we had, that's what we had. It's important to think about what would I wish I would have done while I still had the chance. We've got all kinds of different challenges that could happen. And now is the time to prepare.
So wrapping this up, this was a lesson. This was a reminder that, even though we're making a lot of progress in a lot of areas, we just need to keep making those small, steady steps. We're saddened by the loss of that officer, Bill Hoosier. There's a GoFundMe that we'll put a link in the description if you're interested in blessing that family. But what we need to do is figure out, what do we do to make sure that we can take care of ourselves and our families and our neighbors, our community? And so what lessons have you learned when you've been surprised by some kind of an unexpected event? And what did you do as a result of that to become better? So share with all of us that we can learn from everybody's wisdom. And thanks for being part of the solution.